The middle-sized Silver, sensing Morris's hesitance, stepped forward and retrieved a peculiar device, a pair of strange binoculars attached to a sleek helmet. It adjusted the settings, and a nearby screen lit up with projected images. The Silver toggled the device, cycling through various visual filters: infrared, ultraviolet, and finally, X-rays. Morris and Mark watched, wide-eyed, as the Silver pointed the binocular helmet at its own head. The X-ray view revealed a small, intricate device embedded within the alien's brain. The Silver gestured toward the screen, its telepathic voice steady. "Observe, we too bear these implants. They are designed not to control but to protect our memories, our colony, and the countless species that depend on our secrecy." Mark leaned closer to the screen, fascinated. "So, even you have safeguards against the Greys?" The Silver nodded, its translucent skin faintly shimmering. "We cannot afford to compromise. The location of our refuge, a hidden colony for survivors scattered across the galaxy, must remain unknown. Should the Greys discover it, they will annihilate all who seek peace within its borders." The leader elaborated further, its tone grave. "The Greys fear what they cannot control. They manipulate weak minds, extracting knowledge and implanting commands. But the refugees on our world are strong-minded, resistant to their influence. This strength comes at a cost. A bounty exists for any information leading to the location of our sanctuary. We must ensure it is never revealed." Morris paced the room, his expression dark with doubt. "I get the security concerns, but you're asking us to trust you with something invasive, something that could kill us if it goes wrong. That's a lot to ask." Mark looked between Morris and the Silvers, conflicted. "It's not just about us, though. If we're going to lead this resistance, we need every advantage we can get. The Greys are already here, already watching. We have to protect ourselves and this mission." The Silver leader took a step closer, its glowing eyes meeting Morris's. "We understand your fear. But know this, the implants are not a means of control without your authorization. They are a shield, a safeguard to protect not only you, but the billions who rely on your secrecy. The Greys cannot be allowed to uncover our involvement or the existence of our refuge." Morris hesitated, his instincts as a cautious skeptic battling with the weight of responsibility he felt for the resistance. Finally, he sighed heavily. "All right, let's do it. But if I find out you've put anything in here that lets you spy on me, we're going to have words." The smallest Silver inclined its head slightly. "Your conditions are noted. Our technology does not observe. It protects." Mark gave a small nod of agreement. "Let's get it over with." The implant sequence. The Silvers guided the humans to reclining chairs that adjusted automatically to their frames. The soft hum of alien machinery filled the air as the implants were prepared. The leader raised a device that projected holographic light, aligning perfectly with the contours of their heads. The procedure was painless but surreal. Mark felt a faint tingling sensation as the gizmo was installed, a tiny seamless integration into his neural system. He could almost feel the connection forming, like invisible threads weaving him into the ship's interface. When the process was complete, the smallest Silver explained, "The implant grants you the ability to teleport to this ship or any place you visited and retained in your memory. It is activated through your neural signals interface and with our technology in a similar manner as to what you call Bluetooth." Morris rubbed the back of his head, his skepticism giving way to curiosity. "So if we've been somewhere, we can just think about it and teleport there? That's wild." Mark grinned despite himself. "This could change everything. No more walking into traps or running from them." The Silver leader added, "The blocker is also in place. If the Greys attempt to extract your memories, the device will deploy automatically, ensuring that critical information remains inaccessible. This is a necessity for all who join the resistance." As the Silvers concluded the implant sequence, Morris and Mark exchanged uneasy glances. They knew the risks, but also the stakes. This technology, as invasive as it seemed, was a lifeline in the battle ahead. It would protect not only their minds, but the fragile alliance forming between humans and Silvers. Morris broke the silence, his voice steady. "All right, we've got the implants. Now let's make sure we use them to do something that matters. We've got 6 months to turn this into a fighting chance." The Silvers nodded in unison, their translucent forms shimmering faintly. "Then we begin. Secrecy, strategy, survival. These are your guiding principles." Mark felt a fire ignite within him, a spark of hope. Despite the challenges, despite the danger, they were no longer just two humans against an impossible enemy. They were part of something bigger, a gamble for humanity's survival, armed with the tools to fight back against the Greys. The clock was ticking, but for the first time, the odds felt just a little less overwhelming. Mark rubbed his head, relieved. "I thought it would hurt," he said, his tone light with surprise. "It wasn't that bad," Morris chimed in, his voice carrying a touch of relief. Both of them exchanged small nods, finding unexpected ease after undergoing the brain implant procedure. Mark, curious as ever, turned his attention to the three Silvers. Their translucent forms glimmered faintly under the ship's ambient light. "So, we need a way to identify each of you. I mean, it's kind of confusing otherwise." The Silvers stood motionless, listening as Mark formulated his request. His brow furrowed in thought before he asked, "Is there a female among you?" The smallest Silver stepped forward, its voice resonating in their minds. "Our species has no distinction between male and female. We reproduce independently, in the same way the Greys do. Each Silver is capable of producing offspring without assistance of another Silver." Mark blinked, momentarily thrown off. "No difference at all? So, you don't have sexes?" "Correct," replied the Silver calmly. "Sexual differentiation is irrelevant to our biology." Mark shrugged, adapting quickly to the idea. "All right, in that case, we need to give you names. It'll make things a whole lot easier." He pointed first to the tallest of the three, whose towering form carried an authoritative presence. "You'll be Silver 1, he declared. Turning to the middle-sized Silver, whose analytical demeanor stood out, Mark continued, "And you're Silver 2. Finally, his gaze shifted to the smallest Silver, who seemed the most approachable of the group. "And you'll be Silver 3. The three Silvers exchanged faint glances, their translucent skin rippling slightly, before nodding in unison. "Your naming decision is acceptable," Silver 1 intoned, its telepathic voice calm yet firm. Mark grinned, feeling oddly proud of his impromptu naming convention. Morris smirked beside him, his usual skepticism softened for a moment. "Well, at least you got that sorted," Morris said with amusement. "This is Mark, my nephew, and I am Morris," said Morris. "Looks like we're all set for introductions now." The room fell into a brief silence as Mark and Morris realized this small act of naming had made the Silvers feel just a bit more accessible, less alien, even amid the impossible technology and overwhelming stakes of their shared mission. Morris stretched, his stomach grumbling audibly, breaking the tension in the cavernous hiding space. "First things first," he said with exaggerated drama. "We need to eat. I'm starving. And judging by the way my stomach sounds, I'm pretty sure it agrees." Mark chuckled, relieved to feel some lightness creeping into the otherwise serious situation. "Well, yeah. Also, my parents are probably freaking out. We were supposed to check in a long time ago. If I know my dad, he's probably left me 20 missed calls and 50 text messages." Morris nodded, pulling his phone out of his pocket and staring down at the lack of signal. "Figures. We're so far under the rocks, a signal is about as realistic as teleporting pizza to my hand right now." Silver 2 tilted its head at the statement, evidently perplexed by the concept of teleporting pizza. "All right," Morris continued. "Let's head topside, eat something, and make contact with Mark's parents before we get into the heavy planning. I don't think starving or worrying them to death is going to help this whole resistance thing." Mark smiled faintly. "You're right. They're probably pacing the living room by now. Let's make sure they don't call the police thinking we got abducted by aliens. Or, actually, that's closer to the truth than I'd like to admit." The three Silvers exchanged glances, but remained silent, patiently observing the humans' next steps. "Let's move," Morris said, slinging his duffel bag over his shoulder. "We'll talk logistics after our stomachs stop threatening to stage their own revolution." As Mark and Morris were about to head topside, Silver One spoke up, sensing their curiosity about the alien species' way of life. The Silver One turned to them and began explaining in a calm, resonant tone. Our species does not consume food as humans do. We absorb nutrients directly through our skin, extracting sustenance from organic matter or microorganisms we come into contact with. To demonstrate, Silver One retrieved a peculiar, glowing alien fruit from a compartment nearby. Its surface shimmered faintly with pulsating colors, resembling something plucked from the edge of a distant galaxy. "Observe," the Silver said, holding the fruit delicately. Closing its eyes, Silver One began to concentrate, an almost imperceptible energy radiating from its form. Morris and Mark stared in awe and a little unease as they watched the vibrant fruit begin to lose its brilliance. Slowly it started to shrink, its colors fading and its once plump texture wrinkling. Bit by bit, the life force of the fruit was drained away until it was nothing but a brittle, dry husk. Moments later, the remains disintegrated completely, leaving a soft pile of ash in Silver One's palm. "That's as impressive as it is disturbing," Morris remarked, taking an involuntary step back. He tried to muster a chuckle, but couldn't hide the unease in his voice. "I hope you never do that to a human." Silver Three's skin flickered with a faint, iridescent sheen, a sign of irritation. "We are not savages," it replied sharply. "While we could extract sustenance from a human being, such an act would be a violation of our moral codes. We are a civilized species, bound by ethics and restraint." Mark cleared his throat, hoping to ease the tension. "Noted. Definitely good to know." "Time for rest," Silver Two interrupted, its voice more placid. "It is time for us all to rest. We require a period of recovery after the journey and preparation. Meanwhile, you already know how to use the portal machine. The ship's systems will continue downloading data to your neural implants while you rest, enhancing your interface and building a communication infrastructure." Mark tilted his head, intrigued. "How will we know when the downloads are complete? And, what exactly will the interface do?" Silver Three took over, its tone more measured now. "You will know when the downloads are complete because the interface will activate. You will perceive things differently. Your senses, your awareness, and your understanding of the tools will integrate with our systems. We will also connect in a more intimate way, improving synchronization and communication." "Intimate way," Morris muttered, raising an eyebrow. "That better not mean you're going to be reading my thoughts." Silver Three shook its head, though the motion was almost imperceptible. "We do not pry. The connection enhances function, not to take control. But yes, this interface will allow us to connect and read our thoughts." Eager to test the new capabilities of the neural implant, Mark activated the wrist-mounted gizmo that had become his lifeline to the Silver's technology. A fresh set of holographic icons materialized in front of him, shimmering softly in the air. Mark hesitated, scanning the unfamiliar symbols. "Which one do I select?" he asked, a hint of uncertainty in his voice. "Don't overthink," Silver Three advised. "Feel. Let your subconscious guide you. The data within your implant has already provided you with the foundational knowledge. Trust your instincts." As Morris settled onto the worn couch in the dimly lit basement, his phone buzzed once again. He fumbled for it in his pocket, groaning slightly before answering. "Hello?" Joe's familiar voice greeted him, equal parts relieved and irritated. "Morris, finally! Where the heck have you two been? I've been trying to call for hours." Morris leaned back, keeping his tone calm and composed. "Sorry, Joe. There was no signal where we were fishing, and both our phones ran out of battery. But don't worry, we're fine." "Fishing, huh?" Joe's voice softened slightly, though it still held a hint of skepticism. "Well, you could have found a way to check in. We were worried." Morris nodded, even though Joe couldn't see him. I get it. I should have found a way. But it's been a long day. I promised to take Mark home first thing in the morning. Don't worry. He'll be there in time for the baseball game." Joe sighed audibly, the relief finally breaking through. "All right, but make sure he's well rested. He can't be half asleep on the field." "Got it," Morris replied, a small smile tugging at his lips. "We'll see you tomorrow morning." "Good night, Joe." After hanging up, Morris turned to Mark, who was sprawled on the other end of the couch. Mark, half listening to the conversation, gave a thumbs up. "Thanks for covering, Uncle Morris." Morris chuckled softly. "Don't mention it, kid. But we better hit the hay. We'll need to be sharp tomorrow." Neither made it to the bed, though. The exhaustion of the day's events, combined with the weight of their newfound mission and extraordinary allies, overwhelmed them. As sleep claimed them on the couch, the quiet hum of the alien knowledge downloading into their implants whispered in the background, preparing them for the challenges yet to come. It was a well-earned rest after a day that had reshaped everything they thought they knew about the universe. The next morning began with a comical struggle, as Morris's alarm clock rang for the third time, its shrill insistence failing to rouse him immediately. Half asleep and slightly grumpy, he smacked the snooze button one last time before groaning his way out of bed. "Why did I promise to wake up at this ungodly hour? I'm supposed to be the cool uncle, not the responsible one," Morris grumbled to himself, rubbing his face. He shuffled over to Mark, who was sprawled out on the couch in the basement, still tangled up in yesterday's whirlwind of excitement. Morris nudged him gently, then more forcefully when the boy muttered a half-hearted, "5 more minutes." "Mark, get up, buddy. You've got a game to play. Do you want to be late?" Morris teased, adding a mock warning, "You know Joe will give me an earful if I mess up your superstar schedule." Mark finally opened his eyes, yawning so wide that Morris half-joked, "Careful, you'll swallow a fly with that thing." The morning rush began like a tornado. Mark grabbed a banana in one hand and stuffed a handful of cookies into the other, much to Morris's horror. "Bananas and cookies? You call that breakfast?" Morris chuckled. "You've got the diet of a 6-year-old on Halloween." "It's fuel," Mark shot back with a grin. "Besides, you ate cold pizza last night, so I don't think you're in any position to lecture me." Despite the chaos, Morris and Mark managed to make it to Joe's house just in time to pick up Mark's baseball uniform. Joe gave them his usual disapproving look, the kind that said, "You're lucky you're not late," without needing words, and they all piled into the car and headed to the park. The game was a lively affair, filled with the excited chatter of parents on the sidelines and the rhythmic sound of the bat cracking against the ball. Mark was on deck, waiting for his turn at bat, when something unexpected began to happen. At first, it was subtle, a faint shimmering in his peripheral vision. Then, like an overlay on reality, the command center of the Silver's ship materialized in his mind. He could see Silver 1, Silver 2, and Silver 3 seated at their individual holographic screens, their translucent forms bathed in alien light. Silver 1's telepathic voice reached him, calm and focused. "Mark, can you hear us?" "Yes, I can," Mark replied, startled. "Can you see me?" Silver 1 nodded. "Yes. This connection allows mutual visibility. It is progress." Mark shifted uncomfortably. "This is amazing, but, how do I make it less visible? I'm up next to bat, and seeing double is not exactly going to help me hit the ball." Silver 3 interjected, its tone soft but instructive. "Focus your consciousness. If you desire to see the ship, emphasize that intention. To focus on your reality, emphasize your presence in the physical space." Mark tried to follow their advice, shifting his attention back and forth. When he focused fully on the ship, the holographic image became crystal clear, as vivid as if he were physically there. But before he could experiment further, his coach tapped him sharply on the back. "You're up, kid. Quit daydreaming." Mark blinked, startled as reality snapped into focus. Grabbing the bat, he rushed to the plate, his thoughts still swirling with the surreal experience. The pitcher wound up, and before Mark could steady himself, he swung and missed. The second pitch was no better, and the third? Strike 3. "Guess it's not my day," Mark muttered under his breath, grateful to escape the eyes of his disappointed teammates. But while others would have stewed in frustration, Mark couldn't wait for the game to end. He needed to talk to Morris about what had just happened.